Hey, what's up everybody? Gordon Briley here, longtime personal trainer and nutritionist. So today's video, I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, macros. So it's a hot topic now. It makes a lot of sense for you guys to understand what it is and actually utilize it. So that's what this video is about. So macronutrients, if we break that word down, macro meaning large, nutrients, well that's pretty obvious, that's going to come from your food. So it's food that you need in abundance. And these macronutrients are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So that's all we're going to really talk about right now. So how do each one of these benefit you? So we're going to start with protein, one of my favorite ones. And this is probably one that I feel is most important. So that's why we're going to put it first. So when you consume protein, and it breaks it down into its individual components, and those are amino acids. And amino acids are put together in different forms to create different structures, and these are going to maintain your organs, your muscles, your hair, your nails. It's the building blocks of life. So protein is so important. And also, if you're getting the right amounts of protein, will stimulate a metabolic process. It'll stimulate mTOR, which stimulates protein synthesis, will help you to build muscle or maintain muscle depending on what you're doing. So that is ultra important. So protein, it's pretty simple to explain, but it's ultra important to consume. So protein is my favorite. I think it should be maybe not most abundant, but it should definitely, you should learn the amount that would be correct for you. Dependent on the type of activities or your age is a really important one. So next is fat. That's the second macronutrient. And what is important about fat? Well, there's a lot that's important. So absorbing vitamins. So vitamins A, D, E, and K. And D is probably one of the most important of all. You can't really absorb these in any real fashion without being in the presence of fat. So that's one of the reasons that it's important to make sure that you're getting enough fat, and using macros will help you determine what is right for you. So the second thing is fat contains cholesterol, and cholesterol is the precursor to your sex hormones. So if you're lacking fat, then you're lacking the ability to create these hormones, which play a really important role in how you look and how you feel. So getting fat also helps you in that way. So it's really important. So the last one, or just one of the last important ones for fat, is it helps you feel full. And when dieting, we all know that when you're reducing your caloric intake and you're hungry all the time, that's a problem and often why you fall off the wagon. So fat helps you feel full for longer, and it can benefit you in that way. So the last one is carbohydrates, and everyone loves to bash carbohydrates now, but they're really, really important, and they're one of the macronutrients as well. So what is important about carbohydrates? Well, the carbohydrates provide ample micronutrients. So all the really important things, macro being big, micro being small, these are the things you need in less abundance. And carbohydrates really can give you a lot of bang for your buck. So consuming carbohydrates can help you get these micronutrients that play roles in enzymes and a lot of different things. So it's just really important to get those micronutrients, and that's a great way to do so. So carbohydrates are also a really good energy source. It's a quick energy source. So dependent on the type of activities you do, carbohydrates can actually really benefit you. So we shouldn't see carbohydrates as a negative thing. We should see them as a potential to get certain micronutrients and provide fuel. And one of the other things that I love about carbohydrates is they're muscle sparing. So they tend to help you spare muscle, and some of this is through the insulin response, and insulin is highly anabolic. So by consuming carbohydrates, we simply help to preserve muscle mass. And that's one of the most important things that you can do for long-term health So carbohydrates are very important. So how do you distribute them? So there's ketogenic diets, there's low carb diets, there's balanced diets, and then also low fat diets. Which ones are right for you? And that's what we want to discover. Macros can give you the power to see how specific nutrients affect you. So you test different types and see how to use them purposefully. So let me show you guys some examples. So now we're going to talk about the math side. What does it mean to use certain macronutrient ratios? And this is where it gets really important, and this is where you can really start to figure out your body in a really specific fashion. So first off, I want to talk a little more about the macronutrients themselves. So protein actually has 4 calories per gram. Carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram, but fat has 9 calories per gram. So what that's really telling you is protein and carbs have the same amount of energy within them. Fat has more than double the amount of energy per the same amount. So we can see that how they're distributed really matter when it comes to overall calories, because overall calories is really important. You have to be in a calorie deficit if you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to just maintain, then you need to figure that out. And if you're trying to build muscle, then you need to be just over your maintenance calories. So using distribution of macros to discover your specific needs, and that's really what it boils down to. So I broke some down into percentages of each macronutrient of the different diet types that are prevalent or popular right now. So keto being one that is really popular. So this would be a more clinically based percentage of 90% fat, 7% protein, 3% carbohydrates. So that's very much keto. And what we're looking at is the percentage of each macronutrient. And what we can discover is if we know the percentage in the calories that you're consuming, we can start to see how each one of these affects you. So low carb, 50% fat, 35% protein, 15% carbohydrates. They have different percentages of each macronutrient. Balanced, 40% protein, 30% fat, 30% carbohydrates. You can see they start to sway in the opposite direction. Low fat, 40% protein, 45% carbs, 15% fat. Again, these are percentages that I like to work with, starting points, but they're going to be different in different situations. And I'm going to give an example of that. So if you're someone who exercises, up here we have keto at 97.3, but maybe what you're going to do is because you like to exercise and your demand for protein actually goes up. So 75% fat, 20% protein, 5% carbohydrates. So what we do is test that macro percentage. And that extra protein, as opposed to the 7%, may actually help you to stimulate muscle growth or maintain muscle growth. And you're using the exercise itself to drive you back into ketosis, because a lot of people will argue too much protein, but that's not the case. You have to look at it individually, and testing this percentages will help you get a feel and be able to actually realistically figure out what works right for you. So the other one would be, if you're exercising, 35% protein, 55% carbohydrates, 15% fat. So maybe you're someone that's in a sport that has a really high demand for glucose. So it's a highly glycolytic activity. So that would be CrossFit, swimming, sprints. So things like that. Something where you're really giving an all-out effort. Your need for carbohydrates are probably going to be much higher. So we're testing a different percentage of each macronutrient. So the 35% protein, again, you're exercising, so that protein's really important. The carbohydrates are high because you're going to use those carbohydrates for quick energy. In the 15% fat, you need fat to absorb vitamins. We talked about that earlier. So we're still having some fat in our diet, but we're testing this specific percentage. And then you can start to make small adjustments until you really figure out what works well for you. So it's when you really start to break things down and understand what you're putting in your mouth and how much energy each macronutrient provides you. Now you have a ton of information to make decisions based off of facts and not just reading things out of magazines or just randomly eating. It has to have a purpose. So for now, this is a basic breakdown of macronutrients and how they can affect you and how you can track them to figure out your body's specific needs. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and stay tuned for the next one.